Hey everyone, welcome in once again. It's time for another edition of your absolute favorite hockey podcast, the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. I'm Tom Callahan, Robyn Leonio alongside. As always, we're going to talk some hockey. We got plenty to get to today. We're going to talk some special teams. We're going to dive a little bit more into Dylan Guenther. We're going to talk about that Doan versus Yamamoto battle. Plus, Robyn's going to tell you a little bit about UtahHC Plus. What has her experience been like with that? So stick around. We've got plenty coming your way, and it all starts right after this.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We appreciate you making us your first listen every single day. When it comes to hockey podcasts, we want to be your favorite. And so we always appreciate your feedback. But if you like what you hear, give us a like, a follow, a subscribe. Available everywhere you get your podcast. Plus, we're on YouTube as well. If you want to check out the video and see our smiling faces, you can check us out on social media as well. I'm at Callahan on air. Robyn is at Robyn with a Y _Leonio. We're both on X or Twitter or whatever. You can reach out to us there and other ways as well. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Please place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Robyn, as we get started today, for those watching on YouTube, we always put up the little show graphic. There's an awful lot that's up there. So I'll tell you what, dealer's choice. I'll let you pick a direction here. Where do you want to go first?
Wow. Let's go. Let's start at the top. Kind of make things easy. Because I feel like it's something I know something that you've been wanting to talk about for a little bit, Tom. As we get closer to the end of this preseason, we only got a few preseason games left now at this point.
So where do I start? I have a lot of thoughts on the special teams, power play and penalty kill last year. So let me start with this. A basic understanding, and this is a little rudimentary, but of course we're here to teach. We're here to talk to fans who, look, if you're an expert at this, you probably already know a little bit of what I'm about to say. But so special teams, power play, and penalty kill. Most coaches will tell you, or at least they will hint to you, that they would like their percentages to add up to be over 100%. So if you're over 100%, that means you are generally A+ on your special teams. So, Tom, what does that mean? Let's say I'm going to use round numbers. It means you're killing 80% of your penalties and you're scoring on 25% of your power plays. That's 105% when you add those two numbers together. That indicates that you should generally be a net positive on your special teams. Now, look, there are teams that are shorthanded far more than they have a power play. There are teams that have a power play far more than they're shorthanded. That is going to skew your numbers. That's why when you look at the percentage, that's kind of the metric you want to use. You want to be over 100% with this. So let's start with that basis. For me, Robyn, the thing that I'm looking at is the power play. Number one is important. I'm going to start with the penalty kill. We'll come back to the power play. But for me, the PK is symptomatic of the defense, 5-on-5 play, chances against. The penalty killing was not good last year. The face-off percentage was awful. And those two things tie together because when you're shorthanded and you're losing draws in the offensive zone, you're under 50%. Second worst face-off team in the league, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And so far to me, penalty kill is just a pure hustle position. You are stopping, you're starting. It is direct routes. It is not big, wide turns. It takes a lot of energy. A 45-second shift normally is tiring. 45 seconds of killing a penalty is exhausting. And so when I look at the effort it takes to be a penalty killer, you got to block shots. You got to close down the passing lanes. You got to watch out for players back door. You're one man down. There are all these things that need to go on. It is hard work. It is hockey sense. It is a lot of things. If you're good at killing penalties, that can take you an awful long way and win you hockey games because everybody's going to end up shorthanded at one time or another. And right now, again, I know it's preseason. A lot of fans are like, it's preseason. It's preseason. You need to work on these things in preseason. I need to see that they're coming along in preseason. Right now, they're breaking down. They're chasing a little bit. They're rotating around. The communication's not quite where it needs to be. Now, part of this is a symptom of new defensemen and new players coming in, and it's trying to learn that system. But part of it is discipline. And discipline that keeps you out of the box in the first place, but discipline that also keeps you on your stop-start route, that tells you when to go with your man, when to stay in your area, when to make sure that stick is in the lane. All of that is discipline. And that translates over to your 5-on-5 play defensively as well. So for me, penalty killing can be very symptomatic of whether it's good or bad defensively for a team. And I think Utah Hockey Club right now needs to improve that statistic.
100%. And I feel like, and again, you talked about some of what the metrics looked like last year and all the other, the issues they had. You also add on the fact that last year, the Arizona Coyotes were one of the most penalized teams. And we talked about this over the offseason. If you were an everydayer and you've been following the show for the last few months, we talked about that as an issue. And more specifically, even some of those penalties being, the result of really dumb, like too many men or other kinds of bench minors or delay of games that could have easily been avoided. And it adds to the extra, okay, now you're having to take an extra penalty kill that you don't really need to take. And it kind of, and it adds to more, really changes the metrics there and changes the momentum of the game. It really does.
It does. And one of my favorite sites, I don't know if people are big into the metrics, and I told you that I don't go too far off into the fancy stats, but I can. I know what they mean.
I enjoy it.
So Natural Stat Trick is a good one. That is the site that I like to go to a lot. And
love it.
You can get off into the weeds in Natural Stat Trick. So to me, it's kind of interesting when you go through you look at, we don't need to get into the Corsi and the Fenwick and all that fun stuff, but
not yet.
Well, no, not yet. And look, we can't. And as a matter of fact, let me just stop what I'm talking about here, Robyn, and ask those who are listening and watching, is that the kind of thing you're interested in? Would you want a fancy stats primer? Is that something you might be interested in us kind of teaching, if you will? Or do you know about that already and you'd like to hear us kind of explain how that works in? So if you do, please comment, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
That helps us to bring you more targeted content towards what you want to hear and make the show more valuable to you. So if you want more of that, great. If you want more just kind of straight up analysis, great, but let us know. So now I lost my train of thought, where I was going with the penalty kill for what was the Coyotes, now Utah Hockey Club. They're talking about the numbers from last year. They really, I think, struggled in a lot of those metrics. Although I will tell you, one of the encouraging things that comes out of that is Connor Ingram actually had, I think, the second best high danger save percentage in the league.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fantastic, but also they gave up a lot of high danger chances. And so we see it again with power plays against, giving up, a couple of goals a game at this point in the preseason. Sometimes you see where the holes are. And right now, for me, it is in a lot of that stop-start. It is in a lot of that discipline area of it. And again, I know those are things that teams, number one, look, I've been through NHL training camps. I have worked for an NHL team. I have been through camps. I understand that you don't put a ton of time right away into the special teams. That's what the second week is for. The first week is to try to get everybody to learn the basic system, figure it out 5-on-5. You throw people out there and you say, all right, special teams, we might have to just kind of go on what we know. But now in week 2, leading up to the open of the regular season, this is where you get into teaching that more. As you start to send guys to the American League, you pare down the roster. This is where you're going to see all those things done. And so I want to see the improvement of those things leading up to the opening of the regular season. By the time we get to that game on the 5th, I want to see this team looking much better on the penalty kill. And right now, for me, and this will come back around in that Yamamoto Doan battle, because I think those two guys are both important penalty killers, with whether it's one or both that makes the roster. But this is something that has to be born of hard work. And for the Utah Hockey Club, they have a couple decisions to make. Whether it's going to be now, it looks like John Marino's not going to be ready for the regular season start, which was, we were hoping, we were optimistic, but Robyn not going to be there.
Nope.
So now you're down a penalty killing defenseman. And now you're going to have to shift some personnel up. And again, reemphasizes how important that Bortuzzo signing is. But now you also know that you're going to have an older core of defensemen probably taking some of those minutes. And that also means you want to put less stress on them. You want to be shorthanded less. And again, see, it's all this vicious cycle, right? It comes back around to the discipline now. Stay out of the box, too. That's your best way to kill a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see how how all that plays out. And again, if you take a look at the flip side of things, and I want to mention this pretty briefly, we talked about that potential of a Sergachev and Dursey pairing. Heck, in this last preseason game against the Sharks last night, they were paired together. They were paired together. Haven't had enough time to take a look and see. I mean, obviously had to rewatch to kind of really get a full on opinion on that. But we're talking about special teams, Tom. As a final at least for me, is I would sure hope to see those two together on a solid power play for the flip side, because you want an effective power play that can move the puck.
Well, that's if you're going to go two defensemen.
Yes.
You can always go 4-1. You can go 4 forwards, 1, and you can put, Sergachev, PP1, Dursey, PP2, and then you don't have to worry about needing someone else to fill those spots, which honestly, with the power play, that's kind of what I would probably lean more towards, because I feel like Utah doesn't have a problem scoring goal and has forwards who can put the puck in the net.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. And those are just some things that then have to be considered. And luckily, I'm not the one making those decisions. I have to worry about that. That's all on Andre Tourigny and company. But you know what? I so far, in a lot of decisions that Tourigny has made, as in the previous years as coach of the Arizona Coyotes, now as this year coach of the Utah Hockey Club, I have my trust in him. And again, there's some questionable calls, as you could really say for a lot of coaches. But hey, at this point, what I love to do is just put the trust in them, put the trust in these coaching staff to make the improvements year over year.
And yes, that is what this team needs to do, is continue to grow. They, last year, as a team that was outside the playoffs by a decent margin, now need to become a team at the very least that is at the playoff cusp.
Yeah.
Once you're in that conversation, and again, I said top 11, once you're in that conversation, the focus changes again to taking that next step to becoming number 8 and then getting better. Although it's interesting, you know what, Robyn, I think is interesting. I don't want to hijack the show with this, but there are more than a few people who, when they make their far out predictions, and even the Canadian media is not too far above when they're like, make one kind of crazy call for every single team. Everybody's Utah Hockey Club prediction is they make the playoffs. So other people can see the talent is there, and they understand, just like I do, just like you do, if this team overachieves, they're a playoff team this year. If they don't overachieve and they kind of follow the path we expect them to follow of gradual improvement, they're outside looking in. Next year, they're challenging to get in. And then in year 3, that's really when the contender window begins to open. So again, I'm going to preach patience to anybody who will listen.
Yes.
But that's, hey, if you do a little better, you get a little better than expected. You're not going to hurt my feelings by sneaking into the wild card.
Absolutely. We're a little over time right now, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Dylan Guenther. We talked about his contract about a week or two ago. Let's get more into that contract, kind of talk about the value of it. We're going to talk about Doan versus Yamamoto for a roster spot. Plus, I'll give you guys my thoughts on the UtahHC Plus streaming experience. So stay tuned right here on Locked On Utah Hockey Club.
And today's show is brought to you in part by Game Time. Now, download the Game Time app. You're not going to regret it. Here's why. Game Time has a new feature, Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I told you, I went to a game at Fenway. I turned on the all-in pricing, which you do have to turn that on. It is toggled off by default. Toggle it on. Just thank me later, because then it shows you upfront what you're paying. And once you toggle on all-in pricing, then you can take a look at your upcoming event. And it doesn't just have to be a game. It can be a concert. It can be an event. It can be a comedy show. The seats are there on Game Time. So see what the deals are. It rates them for you in the app. And then you get to pick what you want. Plus, it'll show you pictures of where your seats are. It'll make you, it'll show you the best deals available in those sections. It'll tell you and rates them good, great, meh. It'll tell you right there in the app. So curate your spots to make it easier to find the best price on great seats. See the seats before you buy. Plus, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. Also, don't forget, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, and the lowest price guarantee means Game Time credits you 110% of the difference if it's not the lowest price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our special code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time.
So let's keep going down the line, Tom. Let's get more into this episode on what we have on this episode for today. We've got a lot to get to, and let's get into a little more about Dylan Guenther, because we talked about the contract when it was like coming out of the week when it was first announced, and I think we kind of gave both our like initial rapid react, right? It was like, ooh, let's see what this deal is. You know, what the value might be. We had a little bit of time to simmer. We can kind of sit on it a little bit more, understand where we're at with this contract. I mean, I'll say first and foremost, I like it. I want to get a little bit more from you.
So Guenther, initially, if you're looking for reasons to nitpick, and Robyn, Lord knows, people like their nitpicking.
Of course.
Well, hasn't played a full NHL season yet. Last year only played 45 games, less than a point a game pace, was a -1 player. Yet there are reasons to nitpick. 16 minutes of time on ice, a little bit over, I thought was good. Corsi metrics, just a little over 50%. Okay, fine. But when you're talking about a young player who has now parts of 2 NHL seasons shown, in my opinion, measured improvement from the 22-23 to the 23-24 campaign, you have a chance, and this is where GMs earn their money. You have to, and I always, in this case, I'll cite PK Subban. When he was with Montreal, GMs have a decision to make. Do you lock a player up when they start to show the potential and get them at what you feel is a fair market value at that time that the player is enticed to sign? And then, because this contract doesn't kick in this year for Guenther, it's next year.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you don't do that, you go to either a bridge deal or you have to go to arbitration with an RFA, or he's not unrestricted. But if it were a UFA, you might just lose him altogether for nothing. So the GM has to make a decision. Well, Subban wanted big money from Montreal. Montreal balked. So Subban said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself, and signed a bridge deal, a 2-year deal with Montreal. What happened in year 2 of that bridge deal? PK Subban won the Norris Trophy, best defenseman in hockey. Well, guess what? He is now a $9 million plus player. And this is, 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Which was a really obscenely high contract for him, but he walked to the bank laughing. He bet on himself and he cashed in, and Montreal paid him. Now they later traded him on and he bounced around a little bit towards the end. But the point is, What Armstrong is doing here with Guenther is getting him in at a reasonable term that already, look, 45 games, 35 points of production. That's still, even if it's not quite a point a game, Robyn, we're talking 70 points. That is a pretty darn good season out of a young player that you expect to get better, who's only skating maybe in your second line unit, getting some power play time. But if he continues to elevate himself, I don't know. Do we see that top three that we're so accustomed to seeing together, broken apart a little bit so they give him some top line time? Does that hurt anybody's feelings if Dylan Guenther gets 80 or 90 points this year? No, he's on track for that. The talent is there. They are, it's not even really a gamble to me. I think he is a little bit more of a proven product, even though it's not been a full season yet. So I really like what he's done. And what has he done in the preseason? He's gone right out and started scoring goals. Oh,
of course. Because I feel like, he the confidence is there, and I feel like that's kind of one of the most important things. And seeing when he spent the first half of the season with the Arizona Coyotes his first year, and then getting sent back to Seattle, taking Seattle to a trip to the Memorial Cup. I can't remember. I don't think they won the Memorial Cup, but made it a trip to the Memorial Cup, and did some awesome things there. And then he went to play in Tucson and absolutely was great there. Obviously, deservedly got the call up. Continued to prove himself, and I feel like one thing. Again, this is all looking at a hindsight thing. You take a look at this is a team in which, talking about Bill Armstrong, this was his first draft pick of the Bill Armstrong era, in which Bill Armstrong traded up. Traded Oliver Ekman-Larsson, traded Connor Garland and others in order to get that 9th overall pick to take Dylan Guenther, because they saw that potential. And I feel like that's what the confidence is at level right now for Armstrong and Tourné in him. That's still there. It's like we believed in you to trade up to draft you back then in 2021, and we believe in you now.
Let's face it, GMs are always going to have a bias towards their guy.
Yeah.
If you pick a player, you believe in the player, you're going to support the player, maybe sometimes to extremes, and I think some GMs burn themselves with that.
Yes.
But so it makes sense to me. Armstrong likes what he sees, and rightly so, out of Guenther and his production, rewards it. And I think that this is going to be one of those deals that provides the value and term that the team wants, takes them into their winning window. In year 5, this deal is going to look amazing. In year 3, this deal could look amazing. And that's right when Utah is going to start making runs.
And again, let's go back to considering, this is the thing I've talked about multiple times. The reason they drafted him in the first place was to be a goal scorer. And again, there is a little bit of, again, you talked about how it's not really truly a gamble, but there still is a minor amount of gambling and taking a look at where where the goal scoring production exactly is going to be. Is it going to be at that, $8 million a year worth or whatever? Where is it going to be? I mean, I have a feeling the way Guenther has been improving, it's well deserved.
And I mean, look, there's risk in anything. We could get run over by a hippo.
Yeah.
It just, where did the hippo come from? I don't know, man, but it ran this guy over and he's gone. Things happen. So that's why, again, you pay your GM to calculate the risks and to figure out, not to get too moneyball about this, but what is it worth to sign a player to a deal in terms of the long-term view? And this is where your capologists are important. How much do you think the cap's going to go up? What about the revenue projections? You have to figure all those things in. Plus, the CBA is going to come up for renegotiation eventually. So you want to be on the right side of the world monetarily when that happens. There's all kinds of things that go into this. So the end of the day, though, this is not a player that was going to go anywhere.
No.
If the organization had something to say about it. And so by locking him up early, they've shown the confidence in him. And I think down the road, you're looking at this guy for a potential leadership position as well.
Of course. Absolutely. And I'll add this one more factor that does go into the willingness to pay. It's the ownership. Remember, we talked about going into the during that draft period where Bill Armstrong was just like, yeah, pretty much. I was told by ownership that I'm able to go for it and make the moves I want to make. This, I think, is one of the first, like, in terms of actual, re-signing, or not re-signing, in terms of contract extensions and true experience like that. This is the first we're seeing of Bill Armstrong making a move like that wouldn't have otherwise been able to be done under previous ownership.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's the difference, right? It's night and day now because this club is being positioned to win. And it really does help. It does help. It doesn't mean you're always going to spend the money well. Everybody can spend to the cap. Doesn't mean you're going to spend it right. But I think they're in pretty good hands.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to keep things going on this episode. Locked On Utah Hockey Club. We still got a little bit to talk to about battling for a close to a final roster spot. We're got Josh Doan and Kailer Yamamoto going out for a fight, possibly. We'll see. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Plus, if we got a little bit of extra time at the end, I will give you my review of the UtahHC Plus streaming experience. We'll do that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season winning big with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you're in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out stats and view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, that's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's on FanDuel.com. Once again, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Tom, let's get to this. Is something I know you've been wanting to talk about also for quite a bit. Talking a little bit more about Doan and Yamamoto going for what could be a final roster spot. Maybe, I mean, there's potential that they both get on the opening night roster, but there's going to be a battle here, and it looks like, I mean, based off what's been going on the ice for the preseason, we're going for some fun here towards the end.
We are, and Yamamoto definitely helped his case last night in the 3-1 win for Utah Hockey Club over the Sharks, scored twice, so that does not hurt your candidacy whatsoever, skating on a line with Clayton Keller and Barrett Hayton. That's the other thing, too. You look at playing with some big names, just trying to see what the trust is there. Overall, look, Yamamoto's never been a big point production guy. His best season ever was 21-22 with the Oilers, 41 in 81. So half point a game, but still 20 goals. If you get 20 goals out of Yamamoto in a full season, you're laughing. I think that's tremendous. The thing is, and here's the battle right now with Doan, is these two guys need to be productive in a bottom six way, which might mean 20 goals, 40 points. But if the realistic expectation is 20 to 30 points, okay. That's what it's going to be. Probably in and out of the lineup. But when you're playing those bottom 6 minutes, you're averaging that 15 minutes of ice, maybe a little less. Your production's not going to be as high. So where they need to make the impact, the two of them in this battle, special teams, we've seen them both killing penalties. I think, to me, the games I've been able to watch, I like Doan a little better as a penalty killer. He is a little younger, probably just has a little bit more in the energy in the legs. Not that Yamamoto's an old guy, but it just, I think he's got a little bit of that edge there. But Yamamoto's got the edge and experience. Played for a long time with the Oilers, has several seasons under his belt, and I think knows a little bit more of what it takes to stick and play that NHL game, whereas I think Doan may still be learning a little bit. The other thing is, Robyn, and I'll let you go here after this, is just the point of Doan is much easier to explain back in Tucson to start the season. Got called up, got a little taste of it last year. I think Doan gets a healthy amount of NHL playing time this season and gets a good long look and may be up there for 2/3, 3/4 of the season. But if you have to pick one or the other from the UHC standpoint, much easier to keep Kailer Yamamoto on the roster and assign Doan to Tucson to start.
No, right. You're absolutely right. I feel like there's to level. You talked about the experience. You kind of want to get that experience in there to get things started off. Get things started right out of the gate. Doan only really has like a handful of games of experience in NHL because he only got called up from Tucson at the end of Arizona's season last year. So what's this? The difference is it's pretty different on that one too. And this is something I kind of again, this is just more of just like a little extra throw in the bone thing, but who knows how Arizonans might feel about getting at least Doan returned for a little bit longer to see the son of Arizona hockey coming back just for a little bit longer. While things.
Well, I'm sure they'd feel good about it, absolutely, but. I don't know that Utah's basing its decision on that.
No, they're not.
It would be a little bit of a feel good.
No. Utah's not going to base their decision off that. Absolutely not. But Arizona fans would certainly like that.
Yeah. So far for me, I think Yamamoto's got a little bit of the edge. Again, scoring twice last night didn't hurt. But they are both different versions of the same player. The other thing that could happen is if you move a little bit into the season and Yamamoto's been getting fourth line time, 12 minutes a night, third line time, 15 minutes a night, might be expendable, might become a piece that moves to a team looking for something at the deadline. Doan then comes up, becomes a full-time NHLer moving forward, and you bring back assets in the meantime in a trade like that. So that could also be a path that we see explored for Utah this year, because I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, I know they're going to be selling at the deadline, because who knows? However, if everything kind of chalks, which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, that's kind of where they might be. And so that's just a thought for down the road in this. And another reason why you'd want to keep him all year playing in the lineup, Yamamoto, I'm talking, to say, hey, this guy's an everyday value player for you, whoever NHL team. So you're going to want to pick him off our roster and compensate us accordingly.
Yeah. And then again, one more thing to add is you having, and this is an additional thing of having Doan in Tucson, is the ability for him to grow a little bit more in the American League level, which has proven for a lot of people. Again, you don't want him to kind of simmer too long, but you also don't want him get him up too quickly. Not to say that Doan isn't ready. He's proven he is ready at the National Hockey League level. But heck, look, you take a look at some of the people that came out of Tucson before and graduated out of Tucson, became pretty nice, pretty fine players. I'd like to see Doan really hone in on a lot of skills, because Tucson's a great place to do it. There's great, the development and coaching staff in Tucson is phenomenal. I know you and I both agree on that.
Yes, and you know what? He'll have a chance more in a leadership role too. You go back to Tucson, you're in a leadership role. If you stay up with Utah Hockey Club, you're not expected to be a leader, but it doesn't hurt you to become a leader in the American Hockey League, and that is experience that is invaluable later on in your career.
100%. Any more thoughts on that before I move on?
No, I want to hear what you think of UtahHC Plus.
Yeah, we got a couple minutes that I can go and give my thoughts about this. I feel like it's a new product, so I feel like it's taking some getting used to, but it seems like they already know what they're doing. There's a lot of things that it's really easy to access. I got it set up on my Google TV really easily. All I had to do was sign in, sign up. The sign up process was really easy. Quality could be a little bit better. I feel like there's some. Again, it's only preseason, so I'm really basing it off very little data here. But the access is there. I'm kind of curious to see what they're doing during the breaks. It's literally just right now. It's just these like still graphics. Follow us on social media. It's just like still there for a minute. I had it actually on at one of my day jobs I have. One of my 3 or 4 jobs that I work, Tom, as a Gen Z who works so many jobs. Someone was asking me, he's like, can you get a game on? I'm like, oh, the game is on. It's like because it was just a still photo of promoting social media. I feel like there could be a little bit more dynamic things. Hey, there's actually something going on here because it could be I don't know. It's an attention span thing for me. Because I've got, if I see something that's still, I'm just gonna look away. I'm like,
I get that. I understand that.
But the broadcasters are great. I feel like they're doing a great job at it. Again, it's really easy to access, really easy to sign up for. I feel like for me, I'm able to access it from anywhere. The only beef I have with the access is I cannot for the life of me get it to look and get it positioned correctly on my phone. Like my phone, for some reason, does not like it. It just will not. I can't put it into full screen mode. If I put it into full screen mode, it stays in like the landscape, or I'm in the portrait. So it kind of just stays like in the top half of my screen. It won't automatically flip to landscape, full screen. It just stays there. I'm like, that's annoying.
Even if you hit the little box icon to make it go full screen, you still have that issue?
Yeah, even I hit the little box icon, I still have that issue. And that is specifically if I go to UtahHC Plus on the website, the app won't even load.
Well, that's a problem.
So yes, the app won't even load on my mobile phone. Yet, granted, for everyone, as a disclaimer, I am using an Android device. If you are using your iPhone and have a different experience, let me know. But on the app, it doesn't work.
Which is how most people with a phone would prefer to access something.
Yeah,
because the app is constantly log in through my browser.
Exactly. But if you're maybe even a tablet too. If you have a tablet, I'd like to know more. I don't have a functioning tablet around me right now, but on my smart TV and on my laptop, really easy to get access to, and the quality is pretty good. I feel like pretty easy to get to. But
so now when you go full screen on the laptop, is that when it also hangs up on the top part of the screen, or is it only on the phone?
Just on the phone.
Yeah, they got to optimize that site for mobile. If you guys are listening, which I'm sure that they're not, but
no.
Yeah, I've had to deal with stuff like that before. So yeah, they just haven't really optimized it for mobile. It's also disappointing that the app doesn't work.
Yeah, it is really disappointing. But my hope is it's growing pains. It's the first experience trying during this. Maybe, or hopefully, I sure hope it's only their first. I don't know how long Jazz Plus has been going around, and I would sure hope if it's been going around longer, but it should already be taken care of. But
well, hopefully they're able to provide a better experience moving forward here for the users. But man, you know what? Like you say, it is early, and hopefully they'll get it ironed out for the regular season.
Yeah, you're right. Only the preseason right now. So probably let's say towards the end of October, we can revisit and see.
I think we should revisit this. Yes, I want to know if it's worth it. I want to know if the purchase price is worth it for our fans. I want
now for the fans out there. There's a disclaimer: I am paying for the monthly one. I didn't pay for the annual one because I can't. I don't have that kind of money up front. So, I mean, again, there's a price point for everybody.
So Christmas is coming for Robyn. If anybody wants to get Robyn a gift, for Christmas. The UtahHC Plus experience. So, but no, in all seriousness, Robyn, I think it's a great idea. We should check back in towards the end of October once you've had a month of regular season games. I'd be curious to hear your update.
Yeah, well, I definitely will continue to give my update as much as I can as I try to test things out. Once I'll get a hold on the tablet too. Test it on a tablet. I'll test everything for you guys. So if you guys are wondering if it's worth buying it, I'll kind of be that one that kind of help you make that decision.
There you go. Well, we could put together an entire buyer's guide, a checklist, do's, don'ts, what we like, what we don't like. Perfect.
There we go. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, and as the #1 daily podcast for the UHC. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We are on Facebook, and we are on Instagram, Threads, and X. So we're everywhere. You can follow us at LO_NHL Utah. Also on TikTok at LO_Utah Hockey. I'm personally at Robyn_Leonio. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on Air. And once again, just really quick, don't forget to interact with us via the text club, 801-760-9033, 801-760-9033 to get started. Your first 14 days will always be free. If you guys like past that, we hope you stick around with us because we'll be having some awesome content your way as we get closer to the regular season. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode, and we'll see you guys next time.